question. Not where did I come from, not where am I going, but why am I here? The free will that eludes that question has always been a gift and a curse and an area of deep introspection. But I believe in this thing we call love, and that the value we place on another is our supreme ethic. And you can't have love without having the ability to choose. Therefore, love and free will intrinsically get weaved together. There it is, freedom of choice is in me. And there I was, looking like an early 90s trouble teen on a daytime talk show, young, dumb, broke, without a crew, wondering why am I here and what am I going to do with my life. Growing up, we didn't have much, but we had everything. I was an American poor kid, layaway, ramen soup, Santa didn't bring enough gifts. Not like those poor kids their parents built the gym to finish in your plate for. But money was a thing though, and I loathed not having certain things, as well as the freedoms and restrictions to live the way I wanted to live. I always wanted to be successful and in control. It always amazes me how everybody has such a clear understanding about how other people should lead their lives, but never any clue about their own. That was my mid-20s mindset, and then this happened. My friend Joe's dad got us into Local 3. Top pay $250K, a dream job by any stretch, especially to us. Joe tormented me for years, but in the last moment, I turned it down. Just before that, my nana got cancer, and my mother got tasked with cleaning out her house in Queens and moving her to Long Island. She put an ad in the paper, holds stuff out, brings the money in. Let me show you where to begin. With that, she started Long Island's first estate sale company. I then started doing clean-outs and small deliveries for my mother's clients. I hated the work, but something intrigued me. Every client was going through one of life's hardest transitions, and the only solution was a fragmented system of hiring multiple companies. I was done with college, sick of waiting tables, and growing ever so complacent with what should I do with my life. I had the dream job with Joe on the table, but in the last moment, I scraped and borrowed and purchased my first box truck for $4,000. I named the company Relocators because the day I incorporated, I had Warren G songs stuck in my head. Regulators! These years sucked. I was self-employed, self-sufficient, sort of, but I was by no means a business owner, and every day was a battle. Mistakes were the rule, not the exception. I would make dumb mistakes like putting gas in a diesel truck right before a job. These were catastrophic and hit double hard. First off, every big mistake was like a viral invitation to alert the naysayers and advice givers to call. And second, thousands of repair costs and rental fees were costs I could barely sustain. Anxiety and frustration would build. So one time I actually threw a cinder block through my windshield and said, I'm done. I had 2 workers at the time, and I remember their shock and awe. Later that night, when I went to bed, I thought to myself, what if this had happened last year, when I used to have to fill my gas tank 3 times a day just to get through the workload? That was a memory, was a sign I was doing much better, and I used it as an omen to say, keep going. In the beginning, in cleanouts, I would be in a dusty, disgusting basement. I'd marvel at hundreds of jelly jars, lids nailed to the ceiling, every nut and bolt sorted meticulously. Why do they do this? Who has the time? Do they not have sex? Is there nothing on TV? To live such a miserable existence, spending all your time sorting screws and outlining where your tools should go. Later, when I was married, I realized these guys are free. These guys are escaping. And worst of all, I'd be in the most shit-filled disgust of a hoarder's house with no facilities, holding in a mouth robe full of throw-up, looking human beings in the eye, terrified of how I was going to look at them. But I would just make a plan with an unjudging eye. But I never understood why. Until I realized almost every one of them has suffered a loss so far beyond anything I could possibly comprehend that their de facto mental response was to never let anything go again. Ever. But that response wasn't enough for me. I chose to make my own circumstances and not be a victim to them. It's never too early to late to be who you want to be. I love what I learned this year, but I was by no means a business owner. If I wanted to become one, I would need different lessons, which I got from networking, audiobooks, and mentors. After 2013, I never got on the truck again. In estimates, I got a much deeper understanding about the human condition. If you Google life's biggest stresses, the list comes out: death, divorce, moving, serious illness. But moving is a trade. How does it come before cancer? Strangers come and take all your stuff, but your stuff is just things. Your things mean nothing. But the memories you attach to those things, that means everything. And a shocking dichotomy I observed at this time, whether a family has 1 sibling or 10, when a parent dies, A dynamic of three personalities always shows up: the caretaker, the executor, and the one that doesn't give a shit. The irony to me is the will of the deceased, pun intended, goes right out the window with the simple fact of them dying. My company grew, the workload, imposter syndrome, taking on client stress, employees. I found myself on Sundays dreading the upcoming work week. I related this to when I was a kid. I was terrified of Sundays. I grew up in suburban Long Island, but I spent a lot of weekends at my dad's firehouse, early 90s, crack epidemic, Harlem, riots, the men, the lessons, everything. The chaos there calmed me. Back home Sunday night in the suburbs, the calmness terrified me. Somewhere between big risks and fears materializing, the fears dissipated. With it came hyper-focus in the plan going forward as well as instincts with decisions. Joe from Local 3 is still a close friend, and he comes around my buildings and laughs at his earlier advice. I love that. In 2016, someone said TGIM. I loved it. I made it my license plate, but I didn't know why. One day, the school security guard at my kid's school was looking at it and said, "Does that say thank God?" Before I could even think, the word struck through my brain and into my mouth. Because 99% of the world screams TGIF and 1% holds all the wealth. That was it. I figured it out. And I laughed 30 years later because a kid scared of Sundays is not the reason I'm out here thanking God for Mondays. And over the course of those 30 years, I've had many instances where frustrations and fears build, like when I threw the cinder block through the windshield. But I replaced that windshield and made my own circumstances. And what followed was growth. Growth in an organization that spans over 8 companies, multiple commercial buildings, over 20 vehicles, thousands of clients that we help during life's hardest transition, and over 70 employees, most of which have grown with the company. Although, I do still have my moments. I never thought about that cinder block story for 15 years. One of the workers has become a close friend, as well as a manager of mine. One night recently, I was going through it, and I was having one of those nights, and I was saying, "Oh, the coulda, woulda, shouldas, bro, I don't want to do this." He stops me, "Bro, go home and fucking buy a windshield."